Okay, good morning everyone. So we're live yet again. This is more for our high school students, middle school students. So today we're talking about making a budget, super important skill to have, and just, something to have with you at all times. We're going to be talking about a little different, two different budgets that we're going to be focusing on. So one is more for maybe your current life, you're a high school student, middle school student, maybe looking at part-time summer work, part-time jobs in general. So that's what we're going to be focusing on first. So a budget that you can use right now. And then we're also going to be talking about a budget that's more for when you're adulting, like I am, and when you're going to be using that for with your career, your salary, all of those different things. So we're going to be talking about those two different things today. I'm going to wait just a second just to see if anyone joins us, and then we can get started. Again, please remember that if you want to comment where you're coming from, who you are, love to hear from you. If you have a budget already, that's great. Love to hear that. And we'll be back next Wednesday talking about some more stuff. So, very exciting all the time. Wednesday is again for elementary school students. Thursday is your day for high school and middle school students. So I have my whiteboard with me. We're going to be working through a couple things just to get started. But what you might notice on here is I have some expenses. I'm sorry if it's kind of hard to see, but I'll read them, I promise, so it'll make more sense. But here for like transportation, I have a couple other expenses in here. So it's really important to remember that sometimes a category has subcategories. So there's some things inside of it that you might not always think about. So transportation, this is the big one I have up here. That includes like your car payment, gas to drive the car, maintenance, insurance. There are a bunch of different things that go into that. So there's kind of, you need to think about every little part of each category and then be like, oh, okay, I can make my budget for that entire category, or I might just like to subdivide it. So for me, in my personal budget, I don't have a big transportation category. I have subcategories and I just kind of work from those. And same with, like entertainment. You might have a different budget for movies. If you really like to go to the movies, then you might for a concert or, anything like that. Clothing might be kind of different for work related clothing or, even just shirts, pants, shoes. You might have a different kind of budget just based off of your preference. So there's a bunch of different things that go into each of these categories. So you always need to remember those before you get started. So first, for our first budget, again, we're going to just be talking about something that's more for you. So a budget that you can use right now is based off of hourly wages and kind of a job that you might have for the summer or part-time while you're doing school as well. So first, we're going to be an ice cream scooper. We're going to make $11 an hour. So I'm going to put that with my salary. $11 an hour, and we're gonna just work 40 hours a week. Again, this is a little tricky for you part-time workers and summer workers. Usually you're gonna work a little more than that, maybe a little less, just depending on when you're scheduled. So I know this will vary a little bit, but we're gonna go with that. So it's a 40-hour work week that we are working with. And so for a week, you get $440. So then for a month, we're going to say 1,760. So this is our salary for the month. It's $1,760. And then for taxes, so taxes are a special thing. Obviously, there's different rates depending on how you identify your taxes. So if you are still a high school student, your parents probably are claiming you as a dependent. So your tax rate's going to be a little different than if you file as single, that you are independent. You pay more than 50% of your own bills. Or if you're married or if you have kids. So all of those things kind of vary, but this is kind of just the base rate that I found. and I did some math on it. So we're going to say that our taxes for an ice cream scooper working $11 an hour is around $373. This includes federal taxes, this includes state taxes, this includes what your maybe local taxes might be. So again, these are guesstimates. So if you make $1,760 a month, your taxes might be a little different. So please don't get mad at me. But we're just going to do this for the sake of our math and all of that stuff. So we have our salary, we have our taxes. Now we are going to figure out our net monthly income, which just means we subtract our monthly salary. So all of the money we made without anything taken out minus our taxes, which is 1,387. So that is our net monthly income. So that's the money we have in our pocket right now. And this is the money you're going to see if you kind of add up all of your paychecks, because when you get your paycheck, the taxes are already taken out. So if you have your pay stub with you, you can kind of double check your taxes to see how much money is taken out. But if you already have kind of that net monthly income figured out, that's perfect. So next, for expenses. So a very important thing about expenses is that there are fixed expenses and there are variable expenses. So your fixed expenses are going to be stuff that 100% all the time going to be the same price. So your savings, they might change sometimes depending on how much money you're making or how much you want to save, but typically your savings are going to be the same amount every time, because you're trying to save that same amount, so you're going to budget for that same amount. So for short-term goal, this might be like a new car or a vacation or something. The money you're going to save, but you're going to spend it pretty soon. So we might say we save $5 a month or a week for a short-term goal. So for the month, it's $20. So that's our short-term goal. Maybe you want to go on a spring break trip in the spring, so you're going to save some money for that. Now your long-term goal, so this would be more long-term. So just having money saved up eventually, maybe for retirement. The earlier you start saving for that, the better. But obviously, this might also be just for, when you want to buy a house eventually, all of those different things. Your short-term goal can also kind of be like your emergency fund. So they say it's important to save around 3 months' pay. Again, obviously, if you're at home, you might not have as many emergencies as like a homeowner would or as an adult would. So it's important to always kind of keep that in mind. It's not a bad thing to save more than maybe you need to save at the moment. So we're going to say we do like $10 a week for our long-term goal. So we end up with a savings of $40 for our savings. Sorry, I'm trying to make this so you guys can see it perfectly. Okay, so our savings total would be $60, and that's what we're going to be spending. That's our expenses. For transportation, your car payment, that's another fixed variable. Usually your car payment is the same amount each month, so you don't have to worry about that changing. We're going to say ours is around $200. Again, this changes based on how new your car is, what kind of car you got, how much money you were able to put down on it. You might not have a car payment if your parents are giving you their car, but you have to pay insurance. There's all different things. So this might not be a part of your budget, but it will probably be eventually. So it's not a bad idea to kind of keep it in mind. So we're just going to say my car is not super new, not super nice. We have $200 that we are spending on our car payment every month. So gas, this again is an estimate. Gas prices are pretty low right now, but I am assuming they're going to go back up. So again, we might do like $60. And what you can do, so I'm just pulling numbers just so we can kind of get a budget and get some math done. But obviously, check out your bank account, your debit card transactions, your statements, your credit card. Think about how much cash you had and how much cash you used. All of those different things to make sure that you are kind of estimating what your month actually looks like. For everyone, it's going to be different. You might live close to your job and might only drive really to your job and home. Or your friends live close by, so you don't have to drive that much in general. Or you might live kind of far from your job and you might be filling up your gas once or twice a week, maybe a little bit more. So it just kind of depends, and make sure you look at all of your statements and all of that stuff before you kind of stick to maybe $60 because that might not be realistic for you. So it's very important to make sure that you're being realistic. Maintenance, again, like I said, maintenance for your car, you're probably not doing every month. I hope your car isn't breaking down once a month, but it's important to think about it and maybe kind of have that maybe in a short-term savings account, or just make sure like, oh, I want to make sure $40 is always in my bank account once a month. So like by 2 months you have $80, 3 months, so on. So we're going to say that $40 for maintenance. Typically that's going to cost a little bit more. Obviously, if you're just getting oil change, those are a lot cheaper than new tires. But sometimes your tire breaks or pops, so you have to get a new one. So it's always important to kind of keep that stuff in mind. Insurance, this also varies. You guys are young drivers if you're driving already, so your insurance is going to be a little higher than someone who's a more experienced driver, and they look at that just by your driving record, just kind of the stereotype for your age range. Unfortunately, that's kind of how it works. It also depends on what kind of car you're driving. So if you're driving an older SUV, it might be a little different than if someone's driving a brand new sports car, just because of how fast the car can go, or all of those different things. So the insurance company takes that all into account and gives you a monthly insurance rate, so the amount of money you're going to have to pay for your insurance. So we're going to go with $50. I think that's pretty average. I don't know. Again, just check what you're paying monthly and include that in your budget, and you might have to take money out of different spots. So for a cell phone, this is just an average payment that I googled for a single user. Your parent might be paying for your cell phone, so you might not have that, or you might just have to pay a portion of it, all of these different things. So that's just something to include, and again, look at what you're actually doing, and then you can make that into your budget. We're gonna say it's $70, just again, because of what we have going on. So food is our next category. Again, this could be groceries underneath in a subcategory, and then like restaurant eating in another subcategory. So it just kind of depends. We're just gonna put it all together because, at least for me when I was a teen, I wasn't really doing the grocery shopping. My parents were. So of course, if you do like to buy your own groceries because your mom never gets what you like, you can include that in your budget. But typically I was budgeting for the amount of food I was going to buy out, like at Chipotle or something like that. So we are going to do $100 because restaurants can sometimes get a little pricey, and just depending on how often you go out to eat, that's important to keep in consideration for your food costs. Again, just like gas, take a look at your statements of your bank account, your credit card, how much money you've been spending, and maybe your receipts, just to kind of figure out how much money you spend eating out a month, and maybe you need to rein it in, maybe you just need to budget a little bit more and then you'll be okay. Just kind of depends where you are. So clothing is our next category. Again, you have a wardrobe, you have clothes in your closet, so we're not like going out and buying a whole new month's wardrobe for clothes. So we just need to budget a little bit amount of money of what you might spend in a month. So your running shoes have a hole in them now, you need a new pair. It might cost you a little bit of money. You see a really cute shirt in the store, you're gonna buy it. Whatever, the seasons change, you no longer like the clothes that you had last summer and you want to buy new clothes. That happens to me a lot. So you just kind of have to think of those different things. I think we're gonna go a little conservative with this one, so we're gonna say it's $80. Again, if you typically buy clothes every month, just take a look at those receipts and how much you're spending, and then you can add that into your budget. And then lastly, so entertainment, That one's a big category that spans across a lot of things. So you might not include restaurants and food, but you include it in entertainment because you're going out with your friends. It's entertaining, it's something to do. Um, a lot of the entertainment stuff we're not doing currently, so it might be kind of hard to budget for, but it's not bad to kind of think, well, I only want to spend this much, and then when stuff starts opening back up, you can, kind of stick to that goal. So we're going to go with 100 as well. So the biggest part for me is so I don't spend every last dime, or I don't use every last dime of my paycheck that I get every 2 weeks. I do save 10% of my paycheck every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks when I get paid, I save 10% of that, and that goes into my savings account. The rest of the money, so I keep a mental note of my budget. I do have an actual budget, but it's also important to remember like kind of what you want to spend on stuff, just to have it so you're like, oh, I did spend a little too much last week on going out to eat, so maybe I need to make sure I don't go out to eat this month or something like that. So it's important to keep all of those things in your mind. And so, like, my bank account is a certain amount of money, and you can save in your bank account. Just because it's not a savings account doesn't mean you can't really save. I like to keep a certain amount of money in my bank account. I can go below it, but I feel more comfortable when I'm above it. And that way, you don't want to put all your money in a savings account because then you have to transfer it out into your bank account so then you can use it. Plus, you don't want your bank account to be zero because then your bank usually gets mad at you and might charge you some extra fees. So it's very important to remember that you don't have to put all your extra money into a savings account. You can put the amount that you decided to save, maybe a little extra if you have a little extra in your savings account, but it's important to keep that money in your bank account too, so that way if an emergency comes up, if you run out of gas, if you need new tires or something for your car for those emergencies, you can get that out of your bank account without having to wait or something like that. So it's very important to remember like you don't have to be at zero at the end of the month. So for our last total, so other can be just miscellaneous things. If you have a sports team that you play for, then they have, you have to pay a certain amount for the uniform or something. Maybe that goes in other, just so you remember that that's something you have to pay for, or something like that. So for our net monthly income, it was 1,387. Total, all of our expenses is 760. So our balance is 607. So again, this means you can go back and maybe spend a little bit more somewhere. You can add to it. You can add to your savings, all of those different things. So it's important to remember all of your different expenses first, and then you can kind of decide on what you're going to do with that money. Or, if this is maybe your first month working, you want that $607 to be in your bank account just for whatever comes up. Now, we are going to talk about our more personal budget for when you're adulting. So this is your budget for right now in your life, all of those different things. And I know I mentioned fixed variables, again, being like your car payment usually doesn't change. The amount you're saving probably won't change unless maybe you get a pay raise and you want to increase how much you're saving. But your gas costs, that's going to fluctuate because gas prices fluctuate and you have no control over that. Plus, one week you might travel, to go see your grandparents or something, and you drive a little further than you normally would. So all of those prices are kind of, or all of those categories are a little variable costs. So we always have to keep that in mind. So I'm gonna just erase the numbers, and then we're gonna talk about our adulting budget. Okay. So we got that figured out. Okay, so we're gonna go through this a little quicker because we already kind of have it down. So for your salary, you might actually be making a yearly salary with your actual adulting career, job, etc. So we're gonna say that we're making $31,200 a year. So that is around 2,400 a month. So that's the number we're going to stick with because we're working on a monthly budget, not a yearly budget. So we're going to work with that. Again, my guesstimate of taxes, this is just what I did based off of the research I found. And again, yours might change based off of everything you have going on in your life. And this is a typical entry level income, especially for maybe like just a high school graduate. Some people are maybe taking off time before they go to college, so this is kind of pay they might expect. So that's why I chose this number. I'm gonna make this supposed to be an 8, but it didn't really look like one. Okay. So then again, we're gonna figure out our net monthly income by subtracting our month salary, which that is a slash, minus our taxes that we have to pay. Again, if you just look at your pay stubs and all of that stuff, you add that stuff up together, you should get your net monthly income. Remember that typically people get paid every 2 weeks, not every week, so you probably should only multiply the one paycheck by 2, and then you'll get your monthly income, and not, by 4, because then that'd be 2 months. So just a couple things to remember. So our net monthly income is going to be $1,892. So that's the money we have to go off of. For savings, we're not going to really focus on the short term and long term in this one. We're just going to kind of have a savings goal. You can have percentages. There's usually a typical percentage that people recommend you be in. And of course, you can change these for what you feel comfortable with. Obviously, savings is very important, but you don't want to break the bank and go, not be able to pay your bills just because you're saving so much. So it's important to save, but make sure you're saving enough that you can still pay for your groceries, for your food, for your rent, all of those different things. So our savings goal ranges from 2% to 10%. I just went out on Facebook, so we're going to keep going on Instagram. So 2% to 10%. We're going to stick with 5% just to make sure that we're comfortable. And at the end, again, if you have a little bit more money left over, you're able to, bump up how much you're saving. So we're going to do 5% is our savings goal. Which is 94.60. Okay. So housing, that's another percentage. That's not something we talked about in the last one because you probably do not have to pay for housing with your just part-time summer job. So this one is 22 to 27%. You want to make sure you do stay in that range. You might have to get a roommate or something, but it's very important just to get kind of make sure you stay in that range just so again you're not spending too much and you're not living outside of your means. You're living inside your means. So housing, I'm gonna put it down here. So housing comes with rent or a mortgage if you own your house. So our rent, we're gonna try to stay within the 22% range, which equals around 416.24. Now, of course, you're probably gonna round up or round down or something for that. Your rent, for this amount of rent, you might have to have a roommate or something. that's always fun if you do it with your friends and everything like that. Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties like all across the board, so we're just trying to get through this. Apparently, I'm going too long. So housing is another one of those categories. Rent would be that fixed variable. Things that might not be a fixed variable in housing is utilities. So your utilities, they can fluctuate. So if you have the air conditioning on a little bit more because it's hot one week and you don't have it on because it's really nice and you can just turn it off and open your windows, your utilities bill will change a little bit. But typically it's going to be around the same. Usually you don't, have all the lights on, everything running, and then the next week have everything turned off. So usually it's going to be around the same. And this is another percentage, 6 to 8%. We're going to do 8 just to give us a little wiggle room and make sure that we're covered in our utilities. So we're going to say it's 8%, which is around $151. Okay, and then we do also have renter's insurance. You might have homeowner's insurance if you are, again, have a mortgage or something like that, and that's something important to have. And this will also kind of vary. Sometimes the companies look at how far away a fire department is to your apartment or your house, because that would mean how much damage could a fire do. So they always look at all of those different aspects. Luckily, if you live in an apartment, usually they're pretty close to those things because they're usually more towards like a city center or something like that. So your insurance should be around 4 to 6%. We're going to say it's 4 just again for fun. Which is about $75. Okay. So then we're gonna get into our food again. So this one, if you're a homeowner or a renter, you have your own place, you have your own kitchen, you're probably gonna be cooking your own food. Might pick up a cookbook if you need to. Maybe you'll include that in your budget here. But for food at home, this again is average rate, so 7 to 10%. We're gonna go 10. We're gonna try to save some money without going out to eat, and we're gonna spend more for groceries. So we're gonna do in-home. I need that marker. So what did I say? 10%. Goodness. I am going to end this